An entitled Karen demands that we give her a discount, all because she's been a loyal shopper and spent a lot of money at our store. But despite the fact that I tell this lady over and over again that we can't do that, she decides to get right up in my face demanding a discount, saying that I can override the system just for her. Here's what happened. So I'm an 18-year-old female, and I work at a retail store in the mall. And yesterday, I had an encounter with a customer that I'm still kind of shocked by. It's one of those situations where I had to share it because honestly, I don't even know how people like this even exist. A woman probably in her early 30s comes up to the counter with a few items, which is pretty standard. She's dressed from head to toe in designer clothing and is carrying around one of those huge bags that screams, "I'm rich." And the second that she gets up to the counter, she gives me the most condescending look. I give her my usual greeting by saying, "Hey there, how's your day going today?" And she responds by saying, "I don't need your small talk, just ring up the items." So I think to myself, okay, fine, no problem. I ring up the item and I tell her that it comes out to $112.47. She looks at me and says, "Excuse me, that can't be right. I've been shopping here for years and I always spend a ton of money. I deserve a discount." Now I'm standing here kind of taken aback because as much as I'm trying to be polite, I know there's no loyalty discount or anything like that. The store just doesn't do that. But either way, I try to keep it professional. I say to her, "I'm really sorry, but unfortunately we don't have a loyalty program that offers discounts like that. We do have a sale going on, though I've already applied that discount to your items." Well, when I said that, she just glares at me like I've personally offended her. She says to me, No, that is not what I'm talking about. I'm a VIP customer here. I'm a regular. I spend a lot of money. I should get a better discount and you need to do something about this." At this point, I'm just trying to keep my cool because honestly, I know where this is going. I say to her, "I really wish I could help more, but I can't offer a bigger discount unless there's a promotion running. That is just the policy here." She then huffs and leans over the counter to get even closer to me. She looks at me and says, "I'm telling you, I know you can override the system. Just give me the discount because I deserve it, okay?" Now, I am not dealing with this, but either way, I stay calm. I can't break store policy, and I'm just trying to get through this conversation without making it worse. I say to her that no, I really can't override the system, but I can ask my manager to check if you'd like. She then sneers at me and says, "Fine, get your manager. Maybe they'll have some common sense." So I call my manager over, and she comes over all calm and professional, ready to handle the situation. This Karen immediately jumps into her complaint. "This girl is refusing to give me a discount. I've been shopping here since the store opened, and I spend so much money. You need to do something about this." My manager looks at me, then gives a quick glance at the total and just sighs out loud. She knows exactly what's going on. My manager says to her, "I'm sorry, but as my employee mentioned, there's no extra discount unless it's a promotion. We really value our customers, but we have to stick to our store policy." This Karen then says, "You have got to be kidding me. You're going to lose business by treating loyal customers like this. I will never shop here ever again, and I'll tell all my friends how terrible your store is." And with that, this Karen grabs all her belongings off the counter and then literally storms out of the store without buying anything. All that drama, and she didn't even buy the stuff that she came in for. And I don't know if I should be relieved or frustrated. I just can't believe how entitled some people are. She honestly thought that demanding a discount and threatening bad reviews would somehow get her special treatment. Yeah, this kind of behavior is so annoying. First of all, if I was like the employee there, I'd be like, "Wait a second, you're never coming back? Do you promise to never come back? Because that would be great. Like truly, this is a victory because you never have to deal with her ever again." But seriously, for her to demand some kind of discount just because she shops there a lot, that is obnoxious and so uncalled for. And chances are she's probably just some scammer that's trying to work the system in some way. Because not even your manager knew who this lady was. If they did, they probably would have told you about it and reprimanded you afterwards. They would have been like, "Oh yeah, she comes here a lot. You've got to do what she says." But that clearly wasn't the case, so this lady was probably just trying to work the system. So good for you and your manager for standing your ground, because this lady sounded incredibly annoying. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An idiotic robber gets cold feet in the middle of the act, choosing not to steal from our grocery store while also unsuccessfully stealing a bike from the front of our store. And I've honestly never been more perplexed at somebody failing to break the law. Here's what happened. So a few years ago at this point, I was working in a grocery store, which is unlike the sports equipment store that I work at now. I remember this story well because 2 days in a row, something stupid happened, and this was one of them. 2 days before our National Day, I was at work during the evening. Suddenly, while I'm having my lunch break, my colleagues come in and ask me for help. So I follow them, and on the way, I'm briefed about a thief having stolen a bike from the store entrance. For reference, a man who was a regular customer, who always rode his bike to the store, had his bike stolen. stolen, and he would normally park it inside, but for whatever reason he didn't. Well, lucky for him, there are cameras in the entrance that caught the culprit red-handed, and this is where the hilarity ensued from here. I go check the security tapes to prep for the police to show up, as the victim had been called, and this is what I observed. About 5 minutes after the bike was left in the entrance, the culprit shows up, looking back and forth a few times. He puts some gloves on and walks off with the bike, with his face clearly in view. Well, fast forward about 7 minutes, and the thief returns to the store. The victim is still there, and they start talking together, and it turns out they know each other. Now, there's no way in the world we can tell the victim that it's the thief, since we have no idea if he becomes violent or not. So we keep our eyes on the thief, which is something he eventually notices. On the camera feed, you can see him walking around and shoving stuff into his shirt and pants like a sneaky beaver. When he notices us observing him, he panics and starts emptying the stolen goods from his pants and shirt in random locations around the store before leaving. Well, the cops eventually showed up immediately after he left. I show them the tapes and we identify the guy, and believe it or not, they already knew him. And while I was talking with the police, the bike had magically shown up in the entrance again, with the police leaving to go pick this guy up anyways. So truly, to the thief that had cold feet, I hope you stay safe, because the police are on their way to pick you up as we speak. Oh man, that story is crazy for so many reasons. The guy stealing the bike from the customer was a friend of the customer, and this is also someone that the cops already knew about. Like, what is going on right now? How did the cops know that this guy's like a notorious thief, but the friend doesn't know that this guy has a sketchy past, as well as the fact that he was going to steal his own friend's bike? Like, this is the weirdest and most unsuccessful heist on planet Earth. So yeah, hopefully that guy got arrested, because people who steal like that, in my opinion, are absolutely pieces of garbage. Today, I really messed up by calling my professor daddy during a Zoom class presentation, because right now, I don't know if I'll ever live this down, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So yeah, this happened earlier today, and I still want to die. I'm a 20-year-old female, and I had to do this big presentation on Zoom for one of my classes. I was already nervous because public speaking freaks me out, but I had my notes ready, and I was just trying to get through it. About halfway through, my professor, who is this super serious older guy, stopped me and asked a question. I went to unmute myself, and instead of saying, "Yes, professor," my brain fully glitched, and I said, "Yes, daddy." The second it left my mouth, I just froze. The whole class went dead silent. Then someone in the chat was like, "No way," and people started spamming laughing emojis. My professor just stared at me for what felt like forever and was like, let's move on. I tried to play it off and keep talking, but I was so flustered I forgot half my points, and people in the chat wouldn't stop. One dude literally renamed himself Daddy on Zoom. I logged off right afterwards because I couldn't deal with the shame. Now my group chat is roasting me nonstop. They're sending me memes and calling me Daddy's girl, and I'm scared to show up to the next class, and I swear I will probably never live this down. Okay, honestly, this is hilarious, because this has literally happened to everybody at some point. Maybe not to the extent of you calling them daddy or even like mommy, but I know I've called my teachers in class mom or dad when I was in like high school or even like elementary school, but the fact that this happened in college is even funnier. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would just roll with it and laugh with them, because objectively speaking, this is really hilarious. And I think that if you just go with it, this will probably make the entire situation a little bit easier to handle. Would I be the jerk if I tell my husband's ex that she has to move out after she and her kid had to move in with us temporarily? Because right now, I'm being judged incredibly harshly by my family, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been married to my husband for 1 year, but we've been together for 3. He has 2 children, ages 6 and 8, from his previous relationship, but we do not have any kids together. Their mom, who we will call Anne, has 1 child, and they have a good co-parenting relationship, and Anne and I get along. Last week when Anne picked up the kids, she told us that the kids might need to spend a few weeks with us because her and her current husband are getting a divorce. Now, the house is in his name as he had it when they got together, and she's been a stay-at-home mom for their whole relationship. She said she was going to stay with her sister, but they don't have enough room for all 3 kids. Now, I jumped in before my husband could say anything, and I offered her the guest room and told her the girls can share a room here just like they do at her house. That way, she didn't have to miss her time with the kids, and we could help with her daughter while she gets a job and gets things figured out. Well, she thanked us and said she'd let us know when she would be moving out as soon as she could. My husband asked me if I was 100% okay with it, and that it wouldn't be fair to get her in here and then have an issue later on, but I told him I was okay, and we would work through anything that comes up. Well, that was 3 months ago. She has lived with us for 2 months now, and everything is great. And it's actually better than great if I'm being honest. Having her here means I don't have to take both kids to the store if I need something for dinner. Housework is divided between 3 people, and she's gotten a job and isn't having to pay for childcare, which is about $700 a week in our area. And even though I told her she didn't have to, she is giving us $500 a month for bills. Now, I was talking to my sister and my cousin at our early Thanksgiving, and my sister said I'm crazy for letting her stay with us, that I'm devaluing myself as a partner, and I'm being a jerk to myself for allowing this to continue, with my cousin agreeing with her. She said the only reason his ex would agree to stay is if she still wanted to sleep with him, and him agreeing means that he wants to as well. Now, I don't see them behaving any differently than before, and I truly trust my husband, but now I'm starting to doubt my decision. So would I be the jerk if I tell her that she needs to find somewhere else to live? Would I be a jerk to myself if I don't listen to them and let her stay? What should I do? Okay, for starters, this is definitely something you should probably talk to your husband about first before you make any kind of decision. Imagine going in there and being like, okay, it's time for you to move out, and I'm only making this decision because of my sister and cousin. Like, what are we doing right now? That doesn't seem rational at all, because that's kind of the vibe I get from this, where it seems like you're only wanting to do this because you're being judged for it, instead of this being like some kind of decision that all of you want to make, namely you and your husband. And don't forget, when you say, hey, you've got to move out, you're literally uprooting a lot of children out of their lives all of a sudden. So sure, if you do want her to move out, then there might be some middle ground where you're like, okay, you've got like 60 days to find a new place to live, and we can help you find somewhere to live to get that process going. But to go there and be like, you've got to leave now because I'm being judged, like that's crazy to me, and that is absolutely irrational. And no, you're not devaluing yourself as a partner, and just because your husband agreed to this doesn't mean he wants to sleep with his ex. Like, your sister and cousin are completely out of their mind. They don't know what they're talking about. So personally, I think the way you handle your house is your own business, and I definitely would not allow anybody to make that decision for me. I found out that my boyfriend has been hiding $63,000 in credit card debt, and now after being lied to for several years, I feel like I'm at a breaking point and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with my boyfriend for over a year and a half. We live together and he is my best friend, and I honestly thought that we had it figured out. The other day, I grabbed a piece of mail for him someone dropped off from his old building. They said it was a check, so I opened it, and it ended up being a consolation loan offer of about $63,000. We had talked about finances several times, and he said he had $15,000 in student loans left, and that was it. I called him, and he denied having any credit card debt and then stopped responding. He came home from work and didn't say anything. And finally, 2 days later, I brought it up and he admitted it. He said he was going to pay it off before I ever noticed, and that he was ashamed of himself. We were planning on staying in this apartment for another year and then buying a house. When we toured the units, I pushed for something nicer. We could have gotten a cheaper rent. We could have budgeted and eaten at home. I honestly thought he was financially conservative and that he had it together before this. He always followed through on everything that he said. He's on time for everything. He's organized. I mean, he was supposed to be the responsible one. I honestly can't believe that someone like him would let this happen, let alone lie to me for months and plan a future with me while being in crippling debt. I feel like my whole perception of him was a lie. Every special thing he did was on a credit card. He has no savings and has been talking about buying a house with me and building a life. I love him so much, but our whole dynamic feels different. I don't know what to think. The trust is broken, and I no longer see him as an equal, rock-solid partner when I look at him. I wanted to get married and buy a house in the next 2 years with him, and all of a sudden, that dream is dead, and I'm dating a financially illiterate 31-year-old with no savings and a mountain of debt. How do I move forward from this? What should I do? Okay, for me, it's not even the debt that makes him like super immature and just a complete idiot. It's the fact that he lied about it and hid it from you. Like, that part alone is absolutely toxic, and that is a massive red flag. It doesn't matter if he's embarrassed about it. You are quite literally the person that should know about this information, and the fact that he hid it from you is really dishonest. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened to you, because this is something he absolutely should have told you about. Am I the jerk for walking out of my birthday party after my roommate invited literally 50 people and hired a DJ for something that I was told would be a small and intimate get-together? Because right now, my roommate is mad at me for leaving the party, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I share a condo with my roommate, who we will call Sarah. Sarah and I have been friends for a few years, and since we live together, she offered to throw a small birthday party at our place. Now, I was on board with it because I don't like huge gatherings, and I prefer intimate celebrations with close friends. And on top of that, I also have slight social anxiety. Leading up to the party, I asked her what the plans were, and she assured me that it would be a small get-together, just a few of our mutual friends, with some cake and maybe a movie. And that honestly sounded perfect to me. Well, the day of the party rolls around, and when I came home, I quickly realized it was anything but small. Sarah had invited a ton of people, at least 50. Some were mutual friends, but a lot of them were people I barely knew or hadn't even met before. She had also set up a bunch of party decorations. She had hired a DJ, and there was even a huge table of food and drinks. It felt like a full-blown house party and not the chill gathering that I was expecting. I immediately felt overwhelmed. I don't do well in big social situations, especially when I'm the center of attention, and this was way more than I had anticipated. So I pulled Sarah aside. I asked her why she invited so many people when we had agreed on something small. Well, she just shrugged it off and said, "Oh, come on, it's your birthday. I wanted to make it feel special." Now, I appreciated the effort, but this wasn't what I wanted at all. I felt completely uncomfortable and anxious. After trying to stick it out for a bit, I just couldn't handle it and I decided to leave. I ended up going to a nearby coffee shop to calm down and just clear my head. Well, after I left, Sarah texted me. She was asking me where I was. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with the party and that I needed some space. Well, she was upset and said that I was being ungrateful for everything she did for me. And now some of our friends are saying I overreacted and that Sarah was just trying to be nice by throwing me a big party. Now, I feel bad for leaving, but I also feel like she completely ignored what I wanted. So, am I the jerk for walking out of my own birthday party, all because it wasn't the small event that I expected? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. And yes, I totally understand that Sarah probably went to a lot of effort to plan this, but she also knew that you wanted something small and intimate. So when you show up to a big, full-blown house party, I can imagine that your nerves would go through the roof. Like you were told one thing and then you came up to something completely different. So I completely understand why you would feel overwhelmed and be like, okay, I have got to get out of here. This is not what I was expecting. So I think if anything, it might be time to talk to Sarah and be like, look, I get overwhelmed in big crowds, especially when it's people that I don't know, which in my opinion is something that Sarah probably knew, but she decided to ignore it and invite 50 people all of a sudden, which kind of leads me to believe that she used your birthday as an excuse to have some massive party and get together. So no, you're not the jerk for walking out, because it really does seem like Sarah was being very disingenuous in this moment. And if I were in your shoes and I felt the way that you did about this, then I probably would have walked out as well. Am I the jerk for not inviting my mom to go wedding dress shopping with me after she made my life miserable the last time she went? Because right now she's claiming she's embarrassed in front of all of her friends, with my dad demanding that I apologize to her. But right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female planning my wedding for next year. Now I'm very early in the process, but I have started going dress shopping. For context, I haven't always had the best relationship with my mom. She tends to be a bit narcissistic and negative towards everything, but I've learned to get used to it since I was raised by her. For a bit of backstory, I have never felt very feminine, and usually I tend to portray a tomboy type of vibe. While growing up, she would always make comments of my weight or my appearance, or even one time while prom dress shopping, I said I wanted to feel beautiful in my dress, and she said, well, you aren't beautiful, you're just cute, so you'll never truly be beautiful. So the moral of the story is that the first 2 times I went dress shopping for my own wedding gown, I took her with me because I wanted validation from her, and I really wanted her to think that I look beautiful. And I know it's dumb to do, but it's a trauma thing, and I realize it's a me issue as well. Anyways, during each of those dress fittings, she wouldn't say anything necessarily bad or negative, but she just overall seemed disinterested or somehow made it about her. At one point, I even broke down crying in the middle of the store because of her lack of presence. Now, I was very hurt by her lack of interest or maternal warmth, so I decided that the next time I went, I would try on some dresses without her, just to see if I was less anxious or stressed out. And when I did that, I happened to find a dress that I loved and bought that day. It was a much better time overall as well, and I honestly enjoyed it, but a part of me felt slightly guilty for not including her, but mainly I was upset that she wasn't offering the emotional support or even the maternal comfort that I would hope to get from my mother. But eventually, I thought I got over it, that is until my dad called me up. He then told me about how hurt and bothered she is, that I didn't even tell her I was going, let alone invite her. And now she is embarrassed because her friends are asking details and she wasn't made aware of any of them because she wasn't included in the last dress fitting. He wants me to apologize to her because I hurt her feelings, but she won't even answer my calls and very briefly will respond to a text with a one-word answer. I'm seeing her in person tomorrow, but I can't tell if I'm the jerk for not including her in a special moment that was meant for her as well. Am I justified in my initial thoughts and actions? What should I do? Okay, first off, no, you're not the jerk, and no, you didn't embarrass your mom. She clearly was treating you like crap while also bragging to her friends about the dress fitting. Like, I really believe she never truly cared about your dress fitting, and she was only using this event as some way of making herself look good. Because you said it yourself, she was acting overall disinterested, and somehow she made it all about her. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the same way. I would feel like, wow, wow, she does not like me and she doesn't want to be here. And in my opinion, someone's attitude speaks volumes to the things they're actually saying. Which, guess what? Your mom was failing on both fronts. So if that's the way she's gonna act towards your dress fitting, then fine, go for it. But that doesn't mean I'm obligated to make you come along and ruin this day for me. And also, in my opinion, this is not about her, and in no way can she stake a claim over your dress fitting. Like, this is not some big event for her, especially when she wasn't acting like it. Like, seriously, this is so weird it's not even funny. But I think the best part about this is that she really did get so offended when you stepped aside and said, no, I'm gonna figure this out on my own. Because that's when she realized she couldn't sit there and say horrible things about you and essentially dampen the mood entirely. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.